The $600 federal pandemic unemployment compensation, that was the $600 additional weekly unemployment benefit that was being given to every person that was in every state that was filing and receiving unemployment, has ended. And it ended on July 25th for most people, and for 49 states, and then on July 26th for New York. So that's gone. That's over. And what that means is that folks on unemployment now are, and there's about 30 million of them, are now receiving $2,400 less a month. That was more than half of what most people were receiving. So you're talking about cutting most people's incomes in half. And I'd just like you to remember, connecting this to our GDP and the GDP contraction. Just keep in mind that 70% of the US economy is consumer spending. So 70% of our economy is dependent on consumers having money. Okay? So let's just keep that in mind. So, just reading from this article, this is an article from USA Today, published on July 31st. And it's titled, Congress Leaves Town Without a Coronavirus Stimulus Deal, Allowing $600 Unemployment Benefit to End. Yeah, so just note, Senate has left town. They're gone. They left on Friday. And they're, I believe, on recess now. I'll check. It's probably going to be mentioned in here. But they knew this was coming. They knew that this cliff, this fiscal cliff, was coming. They've known it since the beginning of the pandemic. They put this deadline in place. So just note that they knew this was coming, and they waited until the week before these benefits ended to start negotiating the next stimulus package, which they couldn't come to a conclusion on, and just left town without one. So let's read from this. This is from the USA Today article. A $600 weekly unemployment benefit that has helped millions of Americans stay afloat amid the coronavirus pandemic officially ended at midnight as Congress adjourned for the weekend without coming to any deal on the program or a larger emergency stimulus package. The discussions over another package turned testy Friday as Democrats and Republicans each blamed the other for their inability to come to an agreement, leaving out-of-work Americans in limbo as the vital benefits came to a halt. In dueling press conferences, White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows laid into Democrats for rejecting a short-term deal to continue the bolstered unemployment benefit for 1 week, while House Speaker Nancy Pelosi railed against Republicans in the Trump administration for attempting to take a piecemeal approach to helping Americans as COVID-19 cases continue to surge nationally. All right, so when you can see more of the back and forth, Republicans blaming Democrats, Democrats blaming Republicans. Here it is. What we're seeing is politics as usual from Democrats up on Capitol Hill, Meadows said from the White House podium. The Democrats believe that they have all the cards on their side, and they're willing to play those cards at the expense of those that are hurting. Pelosi criticized Republicans for waiting months before attempting to take up another emergency package, noting the surge of coronavirus cases and high unemployment rate. So what you see is, you're seeing a lot of, hammering just back and forth, one blaming the other. Now, what Pelosi said here, I'm no fan of Pelosi, but what she says here is actually true. They do deserve criticism for waiting months, but the Democrats waited months too. They didn't push this issue. Where were they? Where did you hear them screaming from the rooftop? Of course, they passed this thing called the HEROES Act, I believe it was called, and it had, it did propose extending the unemployment benefits, the $600 a week payment for 6 months. So they did pass that in the House, and then it got rejected in the Senate. It wasn't passed through the Senate. And so that was their little effort to do that. Now they could have and should have gone a lot further in that. What they could have done was establish a universal basic income and provide every single person, because why are we just concerned about the unemployed? There's a whole bunch of people that aren't unemployed. They don't have jobs, but they aren't considered unemployed because of the way that we measure, or determine somebody's unemployment status in this country. It's really, are you still actively looking for work? There's a lot of people out there that if a job became available to them and was made available to them, they would gladly take it, but they've given up hope on it because they've been searching so long, and they've just simply given up hope. And so they're not counted on the unemployment rolls. So there are a lot more people though, the homeless and other people that are just don't qualify for unemployment, that need help as well, the elderly as well. They need they're on the fixed income, but things have gotten considerably worse, and it's much harder. Expenses are going to raise, because you need all kinds of extra care and help, and those sorts of things. So this is, what we're talking about with this unemployment benefit. Sure, that's great for people like me that qualify for unemployment, but there's a whole bunch of other people that are being completely ignored in this, and they are some of the worst off people in the country who need the help the most, and they're being completely ignored by both the Democrats and the Republicans. So just keep that in mind, and don't, sure, the Democrats are a little bit better on this issue, but one, they're weak and they haven't done a damn thing to fight for this the way that they could. Now, right now in this moment, it appears that they are correctly using leverage. But if they do not successfully leverage what they're doing and extend that $600 benefit, if that's not the end result of this, then this was a total failure, and they should have taken that 1 week $600 unemployment extension. Because if the end result of this is that no extension happens, or just some weakened lesser extension happens, well, then what they did was just lose 1 week of that, one more week of people staying afloat for all people, that for about 30 million Americans. So it's just something to keep in mind. I want to bring in also a clip. This is just a clip of Steven Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, Steven Mnuchin, who was a former Goldman Sachs executive, who Trump brought into his administration. So all those people that think that Trump is anti-establishment, what a joke. This dude is a standard. He came in and he just did the standard Republican nonsense, tax cuts for the wealthy, cuttings, social programs for the poor, and Wall Street, execs up and down his administration. He used to have Stephen Cohn, who left as soon as he got the $6 trillion tax cuts for the rich bill passed. As soon as that was passed, Stephen Cohn left. But you still got folks like Steven Mnuchin, who was one of the few people that was actually personally named in the 2008 housing crisis as being responsible for that housing crisis. And just note, since Kamala Harris is up in talks about being Joe Biden's VP, I care less and less about electoral politics every day. But just keep in mind that she had the ability as the Attorney General of California to prosecute Steven Mnuchin, but chose not to. Shortly after he made a $5,000, the max donation to her political campaign, she just suddenly chose not to prosecute one of the handful of people who was named as being directly responsible for the suffering of millions of Americans, the violent act of evicting a person from their home and forcing them into destitution. For that, this man got rewarded with being the Secretary of the Treasury, because of course a monster like that deserves to be in control of all the, financial policy, fiscal policy in the US. That makes perfect sense. So here is Steven Mnuchin talking about what he, and let me just make sure that I got audio playing here. Okay, yes. So hopefully you should be able to hear this audio. Let me do a quick double check just to make sure you're going to be able to hear this before I do it. Nope, you wouldn't. Okay, just fixing that up for us. Sorry about that. 1 second. Okay, so you should be able to hear this now. And let's just hear, this is a clip of Steven Mnuchin speaking to, I forget who is here interviewing him. Martha Raddatz on ABC. And this is what he says. This is how he feels about the $600 unemployment benefits. This is what he believes.
Offer was $200, not the $600 people have been receiving. That's a huge cut for people with mortgages and rent payments and trying to feed their families.
Well, there was a $600 offer for 1 week. I'm not going to make public comments, but Mark Meadows and I have made 3 or 4 different offers that deal with the enhanced unemployment. I think, as you said, Steny Hoyer and others understand that unemployment is supposed to be wage replacement, so it should be tied to some percentage of wages. The fact that we had a flat number was only an issue of an emergency where we had 30-year-old computer systems. So I think on the concept, we absolutely agree on enhanced unemployment. We want to fix the issue where in some cases people are overpaid, and we want to make sure there's the right incentives. But again, let me just emphasize, we put on the table a proposal. Let's extend it for 1 week at the same rate while we negotiate so we don't hurt the American public.
So you do think it is a disincentive to find a job if you have that extra $600?
There's no question in certain cases where we're paying people more to work, stay home than to work, that's created issues in the entire economy. But let me just say, you have to look at all these things.
I want to interrupt you there for just 1 second. It's not all the evidence. A Yale study from this month refutes that, saying many economists who have studied the benefits said that so far they don't see any evidence in labor market data that the payments are affecting the rate at which people are returning to work during the pandemic.
Well, let me just say I went to Yale. I agree on
that.
certain things. I don't always agree. There's a Chicago study that goes through all the people that are overpaid. But let's just face it. We know factually, okay, there are cases where people are overpaid. There are cases where people are underpaid. The issue is we need to come up with an agreement to extend this. We need to get kids into school. And we're going to work every day until we reach a reasonable agreement that's good for the American public.
Offer was
Okay, so that was there's a lot to unpack there. I saw a couple great comments pop up, so I'm just going to read a couple comments because I totally agree with them, and so I just need to, and these were my thoughts, so I'll just read it through the comments because these are my thoughts exactly. So these are from Thanatos, who says, flat rate only in case of emergency, question mark. Are we not still in a pandemic? Exactly. I mean, come on, you know, he said the $600 flat rate was only because we're in the case of emergency. Well, and let me just, hold on. Let's back here. So, no, you know what? Let's pull that back up. So, yeah, so he says, $600 only in, that flat rate was only in case of emergency. Well, are we not still in an emergency? Did we not just see that the unemployment numbers are increasing now? That, and we'll see a story soon about the COVID-19 cases as well. So we're still in the midst of a pandemic. Things haven't improved here. They're actually getting worse across the board. So why would the flat rate change? Why would we need to change that? He also mentions, and this is something else and let me just read this comment by Thanatos again, who says, 30-year-old computer system, LOL. Exactly. Something else that he noted there was that, oh, well, that was because we had 30-year-old computer systems. Well, guess what? They still have 30, and now they have 30-and-a-half-year-old computer systems. You see, the computer systems haven't been updated. And in fact, states have come out when they said this, because what Republicans are suggesting is to do something like 70% wage replacement. And the problem with that is that a lot of these 30-and-a-half-year-old computer systems can't handle that sort of calculation. They're not geared up for that. And so these people don't even, these states have no idea, and they're scrambling now to try to figure out how they would even implement something like that. So, there's not even a guarantee that that's possible. And what's going to happen is that that's just going to put strain and stress on the unemployment system and just lead to more people who need unemployment benefits not receiving them. I could tell you a really crazy story about my unemployment benefits that happened recently. Maybe I'll share that anecdotally so that you can see some of the mess that people deal with, because it's messy. And so, yeah, this idea that we have, because there's that all of a sudden, the suggestion that he also says in there that we're overpaying people, and it disincentivizes people to work, as if the reason that people aren't going back to work right now is just because they're getting paid a little bit more. Now, mind you, this suggestion that, people are being paid more than what they were receiving when they were working. Well, did we ever look and question whether people were even receiving enough when they were working? Were they receiving a living wage when they were working before? Because it seems like that might be the bigger issue there. Not that they're receiving more shouldn't be the issue, but the fact that they were receiving less before should be a much bigger issue. Why is it that we can afford to pay people in this way, but companies couldn't afford to pay these people a living wage? Maybe there's an issue with capitalism there. Maybe that's what we need to pay attention to. So, Thanatos also says the idea that unemployment benefits need to need to be wage replacements when we don't even pay some people livable wages. Shaking my head. So yes, same thing that I mentioned there. I just want to throw out another quote, another comment from What Up America. What up? What up? By the way, always glad to see you here. Thanks so much for being here. Love, love. Oh, shoot, that reminds me too. I got to do the logo thing. So sorry about that. I'm not ready. I'm not geared up for it today. I'll do it on the next stream. So sorry about that. What up? I really apologize. I should have had that together. I was in a little bit of a rush today to get this stream together because I have a hard stop at 1:30. So I apologize for that. I'll definitely have that ready for the next stream. So What Up America says, it seems like a no-brainer to just have the government pay payroll to businesses to not fire their employees. This is labor force suicide. Such a great point. And I wish our buddy Ben 2K from Germany was here right now because he could attest to this. At the beginning of the pandemic, the US had about a 5% unemployment rate. So did Germany. At the peak of this, our unemployment rate, official unemployment rate, reached 15%. The unofficial employment rate reached over 20%, according to many economists, not, Marxist economists. These were capitalist economists saying that the unofficial unemployment rate was much higher and was much likely well over 20%. So mind you, Great Depression rate was at its height was 25%. So I'm guessing we've already passed that. We've already surpassed that in unofficial unemployment numbers. So just also something to keep in mind. But at the beginning of this at the pandemic, Germany had a 5% unemployment rate. Now they have a 6% unemployment rate. Why is that? Germany implemented a policy where they said to all companies, listen, as long as you don't fire any of your employees, we will do a wage replacement. 80% they did, I believe. I believe a full wage replacement would be great and should be done, but they at least did 80% wage replacement. And so, yeah, they just said, listen, you don't fire your employees and we'll handle it. We'll take care of it. So you don't have to do it through unemployment. You do it through keeping people employed. You keep them in their jobs. And you also make sure that these payrolls still get paid out. And so that would have been the simplest, most straightforward approach to if your idea is keep people employed. Now, I'm not totally in favor of that. I believe more in a universal basic income because I don't think that we should be forced and tied into our jobs and be forced into work. So I'm more in favor of a universal basic income. I also think that we should be helping people that aren't employed for whatever reason. There are many reasons, many legitimate reasons. People don't just stay unemployed because they're lazy bums. They're unemployed because of many different situations, many different factors play into that. But the average person wants to work. You sit around unemployed for too long and it's boring, it's dull. You want to get out there, you're isolated, you want to be around people. You want to get out there and contribute to your society. You want to do your part to feel like you're a part of society. Otherwise, it weighs on your mental health. I'm speaking from experience. You feel worthless when you're unemployed because of the dynamic that we've set up in our society and in capitalist societies to say that ties your human value, the value of a person, to the value of their job, to how much they get paid. It's like one of the first questions, hey, what do you do for work? It's one of the first questions we ask when we meet somebody. It's baked into our brains at this point. And so the average person wants to work. It makes me recall an article that was written about 90 years ago by one of the people that are considered one of the fathers of economics, John Maynard Keynes. He wrote an article that he tried to estimate what work would be like in 100 years from then. This was published in 1930, so 100 years from then would be 10 years from now, 2030. And he imagined that by then, because capitalism, this is somebody who loved capitalism, he said, because of all the technological advances, as we technologically advance, we'll be able to output to produce the same amount while working less hours. So he said that by 2030, he expected that the average person would work 15 hours a week maximum. That would be considered full-time work, would be 15 hours a week. And that would be just to satisfy what he called the atom inside of us, which is like that urge we have to work because we've built this into people. We've created this. And honestly, I think that, just generally speaking, people want to do enough to know that they are doing enough to survive, plant the food that you need, whatever it takes to survive. So that's just something, it just, invokes that it just reminds me of that when seeing this. So there were easy ways to avoid the economic situation that we're in. Congress could have done it very early on, could have stepped in and just done wage replacement, full 100% wage replacement, or implement a universal basic income, which I believe would be the better solution, and just provide that to every person. Thanks for watching Radical Democracy Podcast. I'm your host, Kamali Rose. Please like and share this video, subscribe to the channel, and if it doesn't bother you, hit that bell below to receive notifications whenever we go live or launch a new video. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you can afford it, do me a huge favor and head over to my Patreon at patreon.com/radicaldemocracy and throw me a few bucks. Whatever you can afford, it goes a long way and I will greatly appreciate it. It helps the channel to continue to exist and to grow. And I really appreciate the support. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon. All right. Peace. All right, that was a good one. That one's it. Thanks for watching Radical Democracy Podcast. I'm your host, Kamali Rose. Please like and share this video, subscribe to the channel, and if it doesn't bother you, hit that bell below to receive notifications whenever we go live or launch a new video. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you can afford it, do me a huge favor and head over to my Patreon at patreon.com/radicaldemocracy and throw me a few bucks. Whatever you can afford, it goes a long way and I will greatly appreciate it. It helps the channel to continue to exist and to grow. And I really appreciate the support. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon. All right. Peace. All right, that was a good one. That one's it.